start with the abuse of our asylum system by migrants who are claiming to be Christian just to stay in this country. 40 asylum seekers on the Bibby Stockholm are converting to Christianity, and that's almost 1 in 7 of the migrants in the barge. Now, that's some coincidence. And this comes, of course, after Abdul Azidi, who's the main suspect in last week's chemical attack case, was also given asylum on the basis that he was a Christian and therefore could not be returned safely to Afghanistan. Well, joining me now to discuss this is the Reverend Dr Bernard Randall. Welcome to the show, Reverend Randall. Suella Braverman, Priti Patel, adamant at the weekend, echoed by many in the Conservative Party, and that is this appears to be a gross abuse of our system, and no more is this a coincidence than it actually feels like an orchestrated attempt to abuse the system, game the system, and for asylum seekers to stay in Britain.
Yes, I totally understand that concern. Obviously, as a member of the Church of England, as a Christian, I would say Christianity is wonderfully attractive. And so, in a sense, it's no surprise that people who come to this country and meet people from churches who are offering them food, shelter, clothing, whatever it might be, will see the attraction of that and might consider converting. But yes, it's vitally important that the system is not abused by people. I would say that clergy who are approached by asylum seekers, it's not really their job to determine whether they're genuine asylum seekers or not. They should only be taking, is this person genuinely interested in the Christian faith? Is this someone who is wanting to convert from whatever faith or none it might have been? That's what they're there for, not to police the asylum process as such.
But whether they're policing or not, what about if they're facilitating a loophole, a well-known loophole, because there are lots and lots of evidence of the dangers of being deported if you're suddenly a Christian being sent back to Afghanistan or Somalia or lots of other countries like that. Then the story goes, then you can claim I will be in danger, and therefore there's a clear incentive to go down that route if you wish to avoid deportation, isn't there?
It is, and I think clergy should be aware of that and should be somewhat alert. But it would be a very great shame if clergy were also becoming very cynical about people approaching them to say, I am interested in Christianity, I want to know what it's all about, I want to be part of a church community. So it's finding that balance between wanting to be welcoming to absolutely anybody, regardless of background, and also, yes, not wanting the system to be gamed. Perhaps asking a few extra questions would be appropriate, but it's very difficult for individual clergy to make those distinctions. And ultimately, if someone is using that to game the asylum system, there are asylum system professionals with the Home Office whose job it is to determine that rather than clergy. But I accept that clergy should be alert.
Do you think they're being conned? Do you think they're being played this saviour complex, albeit, well-meaning, the desire to save somebody's soul, to give them a better life, to listen to their story in a compassionate and caring manner? That's the very ethos of Christianity. But we've seen, have we not, Reverend Randall, that some of these cases can have terrible consequences. We've seen suicide bombers in Liverpool who converted to Christianity, and now Abdul Azidi converted to Christianity. Is this misplaced faith in the good of human nature placing Britons at risk?
Well, there is always that danger, but equally there must be vast numbers of people who come to this country who don't cause that kind of risk. And so for clergy to try and weed out those very small numbers who are dangerous is putting an unfair burden on them. Yes, the system can be gamed, and that's going to be true regardless of how careful people are. If clergy are ultra careful, nevertheless, some people will find the right words to say, the right things to do to beat the system. And as Queen Elizabeth I said, I think, when creating the settlement that created the Church of England in its current form, she said we shouldn't try to make windows into men's hearts. There is a limit to how much clergy can do. Yes, be careful. Yes, ask questions. And certainly if they're being called to go to asylum tribunals and say, I support this person, they need to be jolly sure about what they're saying and about that this person has genuinely converted, because they're giving sworn evidence, I would think. But as I say, there's a limit to what individual clergy can do. They should do that, but we can't ask them to do more than that.
It's part of the issue here, Reverend Randall, let's be honest, that there's an orthodoxy now within the Church of England that flows down from the top, from Justin Welby. The refugees welcome mindset seems now to be the dictated norm. And if you don't agree with that, then you get in trouble. I mean, look at yourself. You dared to challenge the LGBTQ stance of the church, and it got you in hot water.
Well, it did, which obviously that's a somewhat different topic. But yes, there is probably pressure for clergy. They see the way the church is going. The Church of England is very conscious about alleged systemic racism in the church. And so there probably is pressure on clergy to say yes more readily than perhaps they might otherwise do. That's something to be looked at. What certainly mustn't happen and would be absolutely wrong is if clergy, whether the senior leadership putting pressure or the clergy doing things as in the parishes, are doing it because they're hoping to score, as it were, party political points about asylum and refugees and immigration. This cannot do. Sacraments of the church cannot be party political. And if they become that, that certainly is absolutely wrong in all circumstances.